Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Poz. With me today, special guest, former NWA Wildside heavyweight champion, former NWA Wildside tag team champion. Of course, he was a hardcore champion over in the Wing promotion in Japan. You may know him as Edward Chastain or maybe Slim, but we know him, of course, as Iceberg. Iceberg, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing?
Hey, John, thanks for having me, buddy. I'm good. How are you?
Very good. What is going on in your world?
Oh man, just like we were chatting a little bit about this heat, man. Just trying to survive it. You know, I mean that's basically it, man. Still trying to get adjusted to the new way of life and everything, but it's coming along. We'll get there.
Did you get a chance to see the dark side of the ring on Abdullah the Butcher?
I did.
What did you think? Because I know you were trained by him. So what did you think about that dark side?
Well, he was my mentor. Actually, another guy in Georgia that goes by Murder One. He's the one that actually trained me. But Abdullah was my mentor. I met him in probably 8 months after I got started in the business, man. But it was interesting. It was interesting.
In a
Uh,
good way or a bad way?
I mean, it had it shined a light on some good things and some bad things that I think probably should be maybe not talked about by me, but some conversations that need to just be had overall, especially like maybe independent wrestling, smaller promotions, that don't have the luxury of on-site doctors and um, just frankly, man, they don't have the medical testing, that needs to be observed, by everyone. So, and I know that, that's probably not cost efficient, for, for everyone, but, when we're talking about, and I won't go too deep off into it, but when we're talking about, airborne type diseases and whatnot, um, one that is something that you know if you knowingly have something like that, that needs to be addressed right away, whether you're doing a blade job or not. But yeah, I mean that needs to be addressed, absolutely. And again, I don't know the whole story. I certainly don't have medical records for either, but I mean I can see where both guys are coming from.
What did you think of Abby? Because you said he was your mentor, but what did you think about him back then? How did he become your mentor?
Well, I tell you, man, he was one of the first wrestlers that I actually fell in love with watching the business. Um, was a 4 year old kid, man, that used to sit in front of the television every Saturday night with my parents, and we watched the old NWA on TBS, you know, and so I mean, guys like him, Flair, Dusty, Funk, Brody, those all those guys caught my attention because obviously the one thing they all have in common is they were all bleeders,
Yeah.
and I think I think the reason that was is because the realism was there. Uh, you know, you know, as a 4 year old, I don't know, the ins and outs of the business, but I mean, you see somebody bleeding, and your attention is grabbed immediately. You know, um, so yeah, those guys, man, that got my attention, and so yeah, man, uh, I met him. I had just come off of a pretty severe knee injury, and this guy that was doing a show here locally, he had him booked. Uh, Actually, had him and New Jack booked on the show, and so he had booked me, and we all went up to. It's back when Abdullah had the restaurant. We had all taken a drive up. You know, I don't know what the hell we were thinking. We went up in a limo to pick this man up, but I mean, we were like 5 or 6 deep, in that thing. But it was a bunch of green kids. The promoter was green, um, and but we went up to pick him up, and we walk in, and um, I was one of the last one of the guys to walk through the door, and we walked in, and like the first thing that he asked, he said, "Who's the promoter?" And the guy said, "That's me." And he said, "Who am I working tonight?" And I get these guys, they flip flop, but he was either working Chick Donovan or Doug Summers, and the other one was going to be like the special referee for the match. And so he told him that, and he was like, "No, I want to work with this kid right here." And like I was, part of my friendship, but I was scared shitless, because again, this is a guy that I watched coming up, and I saw how the crowds were in Texas, and like the clips from Japan and Puerto Rico, and so I was taken aback by it. My nerves had gotten the best of me, so so to speak, and so yeah, that's the initial meeting that we had, and the rest is history, man. I got the chance to work with him that night, and New Jack both in the same match. So like I my fears were all like there for anyone to see, because both of those guys, they had the reputation, and so yeah, my nerves, not ashamed to say that, I was a bit nervous, um, but I do kind of remember the ice being broken in the back. We were talking, and so he looks at me, and again, like I said, I was in the business for 6 months at the time, had been out for probably 4 months with the knee injury, and he just looks at, and I didn't have any scarring, and he looks at me, and he goes, he said, can you get color? And before I can speak, I look up to answer him, and there's New Jack standing behind him over his shoulder, going, like, basically telling me, yeah, you tell him that you can get it. And so I caught the hint, and I was like, yes, sir, I can get it. I can absolutely get it. And he was like, are you sure? I said, absolutely, I can get it. And so yeah, I mean, that was the initial meeting. And for whatever reason, man, he took a shine to me, and the rest, as they say, is history.
So you did bleed that night, obviously.
Absolutely, I did. Um, again, working with him and with New Jack, and the funny thing is I quit watching wrestling for a period of time when I got to high school, and I think that that may have happened to a lot of people, um, but I jumping ahead a little. I'm sorry. Um, I'm flipping through the channels one night, and it's probably about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and like I stop, and I see a wrestling ring, and I hear, the song "Natural Born Killers" playing, over the mic,
Yep.
over the speakers, and I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, "Well, I see a wrestling ring. Um, I think this is a wrestling show, but I hear this music, but I don't see anybody in the ring." And it was just like a quick shot. They panned over into the ring, nobody's there, and then they panned back to the crowd, or switch cameras, and I see this guy laying on a table in a U-Haul truck, and next thing I know, I see a guy running off the top of the U-Haul truck, and landing on the guy on the table, and it was New Jack, and so he is probably the person that I honestly can say got me back into watching wrestling and my love for it all over again. because it was a wild scene, man. And I was a you know loved, 90s rap, and I love that song. And here's this guy is he's bleeding and he's doing this craziness off of a U-Haul truck. And so yeah, man, I started looking and reaching, searching just for any wrestling that I could find at the time. And
Man,
so yeah, that's how I got back interested in the business. Had I not seen him, and caught that clip, things may have turned out different for me. But that was it. That was the thing that was like, I want to do this.
and you get to wrestle with New Jack. You get to bleed with Abdullah the Butcher, which
I did,
obviously,
man. Yeah,
which
man,
is
I
obviously,
did. And like one became, like I said, Abby was my mentor. He became like a father figure to me, because I lost my father the year that I started wrestling. And so he became like a father figure to me. And then New Jack, for whatever reason, he took to me. And he was like a brother to me. Like, he and I were probably closer than me and my blood brother actually are.
wow.
So yeah, it's pretty
Now,
cool.
on the dark side, they were saying, or Abdullah the Butcher was saying, he can't read or write. Is that true? Because Mick Foley kind of made like a little bit of a joke, but then he was kind of being serious. He's like, "Well, he could read a menu, that kind of thing." Like, what's true about that, or if it's not true?
You know, I don't know, man. Like the only times like that I was ever around him that any reading would have need to have been done was at a restaurant. Um, we never sat in any other you know uh, in any other way that I could have known whether or not he could read or write. I mean, obviously he could write some because he signed autographs and whatnot. Um, but yeah, man, I don't know. Like I don't know the education level, and exactly what he could or couldn't do.
Looked like him and his brother, I guess, both left school at either second or third grade. It seemed like, according to the doc, and his sister was saying basically a second grade education. But I mean, man, he's making all those deals with Japan. He had part ownership in WWC down there in Puerto Rico. So I mean, I have a feeling that maybe now he's whatever's happening
Yeah,
mentally, and God knows CTE or concussion. Maybe now he's not reading, but I feel like back then he's probably making some pretty good deals with those big companies.
I mean, obviously, and you would think that that someone that's making those kind of deals could do something other than read a Waffle House menu.
Yeah.
Um, you're either going to be able to read, well enough that you can understand what's on a piece of paper, or you're going to constantly have, legal advice around you, or someone that can interpret what's been put in front of you. And I, you know, just feel like that's probably not the case.
Big legend in the business, though. I mean, there's no doubt about it as far as his place in the business, his legacy in the business, right? I mean, he's got to be up there as one of the all-time great heels.
Yeah, I mean, he most definitely. Um, Again, like I said, he terrified me as a kid, and even the initial meeting that we had. And yeah, absolutely one of the greatest heels of all time. And you know, um, and I don't know, like if Hannibal was down in Puerto Rico with him, if they had gone down at the same time or not. Um, but he made one hell of a baby face down there too, uh, which shocked the hell out of me, man. We were on the first match that I worked down there was at the baseball stadium where Brody ultimately got killed.
Yep.
And so we got done with our match, and me and one man gang are going back to the dugouts to get back to the back, and him and Carlos are still out on the field. And he got on the mic and he cut this this pro Puerto Rico promo, and said to play his music, and it was that song "Living in America" by James Brown,
Yeah.
the Rocky Four movie,
Yep. Yep.
and he starts dancing to it, and my mind is blown, you
Yeah.
know, because all I'd ever seen him be was terrifying, and then here he is, people are eating out of his hand, so to speak. So it was pretty wild, man.
Yeah. It's amazing seeing him dance at all. It's crazy because usually he's making people run, right? I mean, just
Yeah,
scaring people.
yeah, and the there was like the fence, like because he was right close to the backstop, so you've got the tall fence like they do in baseball stadiums, um, but security was pretty thick right in that area too. But like no one was going to try to come down where he was, man. Because and the reason I say this is because one, yes, they absolutely they believe the gimmick. Uh, but um, we had gone out one night to a bar after one of the shows, and we we pulled up in Old San Juan, the old part of town, and me and my buddy that I went down with, we got out of the taxi, and like as soon as we stepped out, like we were the only two gringos down there, and it looked like, I mean, it looked like about 40 or 50 people started walking towards us. And I looked at my buddy and I was like, oh shit, you know, and they start closing in pretty good. I mean, it was probably, I mean, it was at least 20. Like I'll give them that. It was at least 20. But they start closing in and they get within about 20 feet of us, and the passenger door on the taxi opens up and he steps out. And have you ever seen how roaches scatter when a light's turned on?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yep.
This is exactly real life what it would look like if this, in human form, the roaches scattered. I mean, they were terrified of this man, and treat him like a god down there, just like they do Carlos, which was just wild to me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have them, you guys might have been in a little bit of trouble.
No, we would have. No, we absolutely would have been screwed. Absolutely, we'd have been screwed, man. Because like I'm a big guy, and my buddy, he's probably 6'3", probably around, I don't know, 275, 280 at the time, and we could have fended off maybe two or three of those guys, but you got 20 people coming at you, and their intentions were not to come and buy us a beer.
Right.
Yeah. So
They're not like the gringos down there, I
no,
guess.
no, no, and you know, I I told my buddy, I was like, they're coming because they don't like you. Like I
Right.
tried to divert the attention away from me, but no, they absolutely they're not a fan.
As far as you and Abby, you would take some stuff from him, right? I mean, obviously he's a mentor, but like using the fork and things of that nature, and your style really is based off of him, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I I took the fork, chair shots, pretty much everything that that anything that was around when we were out working the floor or the ring, anything that was available, I took from him. Got stuck with that fork a few times. The first time that we shared a ring together, um, I got stuck with the fork. So yeah, we shed a lot of blood together, over the years.
Were you actually able to get a win over him? I believe you were, right, in your career?
I did. I got one win, which, still to this day blows my mind. Um, because within about, I'd say, a 6-month time period, I got a pinfall over him, and I got a pinfall in Japan over Mr. Pogo.
pretty big, pretty big. Like, what do you think in your head at this point? Like, I've made it, or it's like, oh, I can retire now. This is great.
Well, no, man, it was, and I didn't even think that I made it. I think my opinion was, what did I do to deserve this? You know what I mean? It was, who am I to go over, on these two legends? And John, at the time, dude, I had only been in the business. Say I got in '98, and this was in 2001, towards the end of 2001. Matter of fact, it was a month exactly after 9/11 when I beat Mr. Pogo. And then just a few months later, is when I beat Abdullah.
Is that something that he's like saying, like basically he calls his own shots at that point? So he wanted to lose to you, or is that like a
Yeah,
booking decision?
no, he actually that was his call. That was his call. And like when he said it, I thought that I thought that I didn't hear him clearly. Because I'd never seen anybody, get a pinfall victory over him. Now I saw guys, beat him, like DQs, or like when him and Manny did the sombrero on a pole match, Starcade that year. I saw that, but I'd never seen anyone pin him. And for me seeing it for the first time and being the one that pinned him was just mind blowing.
That is pretty crazy because, like, I can't think of any losses he had either. Really, I mean, if you really think about his career, he didn't lose too much.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he did, because he was champion here and there, and he had to, he had to lose those titles. I'm sure obviously Baba pinned him probably more times than anyone. Him and Carlos.
Carlos, yeah.
They pinned him probably more times than anyone. But I never saw any of those matches because they were either Japan or Puerto Rico. So pretty crazy, man.
What
Like
does he
I
say to you?
still,
Like, hey, you're going over tonight?
yeah. I mean, we were working a show here in my hometown, which is just a little small town, and down 70 miles south of Atlanta, and like I've had the match with him a dozen times, or better, and so it was, I'll take the elbow if he, and I can't even remember if he could still drop the elbow at that point, but because I know he did beat me with the elbow before, and then there's another time that that he put his foot on my chest, and beat me that way. But yeah, man, it was all his idea. I still, John, I don't know why. Like I really don't know why.
Pretty amazing to get that win, and obviously Mr. Pogo pretty good too. How do you get over there, like to Japan? By the way, how did you get into the wing promotion to begin with?
So uh, I get a phone call one. I think it was a Wednesday morning. Just get a phone call out of nowhere from Butcher, and it's at like 9 in the morning, which is pretty early, for him to be calling me. And so he calls me and he said, "Do you have a promo package put together?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "You got the 8x10s?" "Yes, sir." "You got you've got video cassette?" "Yes, sir." "All right, you've got not just like you've got two matches?" "Yes, sir." "Have you got highlights on there as well?" "Absolutely. That's everything that you told me, that I needed. And if they need me to talk, then that was on there as well." And so he said, "Come to the restaurant. I need you to be here by 1 o'clock." I said, "Okay." So I got all my stuff together, got ready, took off, went up to the barbecue joint, barbecue and Chinese.
Hmm.
And I walk in and I lay it on the table, and I said, what's going on, boss? I was like, you've seen my work, you know everything I can do. And he said, this promoter in Japan had been talking to him basically, and they were trying to finalize a deal for him to come over to work for Wing, and everything was pretty much laid out. But the night before the guy was set to land, Miss Baba had reached out to call him and ask him if he would come to, what was that, Big Japan?
All
Big
Japan.
Japan? Yeah. Had asked him if he would come back and help her, get interest back in the business, because it was after Baba had passed.
Right.
And so that's where his loyalties were, I guess, for everything that Baba had done for him. And he said, I said, so how do I fit into this? And he said, I'm going to talk to the guy when he gets here, and I'm going to sell you to him. And so, like, again, this is 2001. Had only been in the business since 98. So what, 3 years? And so, my mind starts racing, at that point. What the hell really is going on? How do I handle this? And so we went, and my sponsor's name was Kiyoshi Ibaragi, and I'll never forget that man's name. And because it changed my life. But we went to the airport. We picked him up. We took him, dropped him off at his hotel so that he could shower, get a nap, and so we made plans to go back to pick him up that evening. And so we go and pick him up and come back to the restaurant, because he really wanted to see the restaurant. And because we were going to take him out, to have just whatever he wanted. And he wanted to come to the restaurant. And so we went back there, and, they started talking, and Abdullah explained the situation to him. And he said, he talked to me a little bit, got a little bit of my background, and trying to get a little familiar with me. And so he said, I'll go back to the room, and I'll watch your stuff, and I'll let you guys know something in the morning, And so I said, okay, thank you. It was nice to meet you, because I didn't know if I'd ever meet the guy again,
Right. Yep.
And so, I asked Butcher, I was like, I said, do I even need to come back up here tomorrow? And he said, absolutely, and so, next morning I get up and take the drive back up there, and we go and pick him up from the hotel again, and come back to the restaurant, and sit down, man, and just started ironing out, details, giving me, the information, telling me, everything that I needed to handle, before I went over, and, what kind of visa I needed to get. And, I'd never dealt with any of that stuff. I was 20, let's see, at that point, I was a 20, however old I was, doesn't matter.
Right.
28-year-old kid. Sorry. I think that's what I was. Anyway, 28-year-old kid, maybe older. Anyway, doesn't matter. So, yeah, man, I got back home, and the next morning I went, and because again, it's a small town, I had to seek out somewhere that I could see about getting my passport, because hell, I didn't have a passport. And so yeah, that's what all of the that next day consisted of, is me trying to get everything taken care of. And I mean, it was a time crunch, man, because again, 9/11 had just happened, and so like the whole travel thing had, it was changed. And so yeah, it was pushing it for me to get my passport, in time for, for the booking. And um, so it pretty stressful. Uh, and you know, got it done. And so yeah, man.
Pretty awesome. All thanks to Abby. You headed over there again. Thanks to him. Very cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, he was my foot in the door in Puerto Rico. I mean, like all of my shit, man, is happened like none of it was planned to. Like even me getting into the business, I didn't wake up that Sunday morning, with the purpose of I'm going to get into the wrestling business. Um, I woke up that Sunday morning, and I, I just made the decision like that I needed to change in my life, and pro wrestling was that change. Um, and just like just like me going to Japan, that wasn't planned. That happened on a phone call and a prayer. And then Puerto Rico was the same thing, man. I get a phone call on a Wednesday night, and it's Butcher, and he said, where are you working this weekend? And I think I was doing a little show up in Chattanooga. I think is what I was booked for. And he said, what are they paying you? I told him. He said, all right, cancel the booking. And I was like, why? And he said, I want you to come to Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And I said, when? Like I need time to. And he was like, Friday. I need you to be there Friday. And this is, again, this is on Wednesday.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, man, everything just happened really quick, really, really quick. Uh,
And and how'd you get noticed by NWA TNA? Because you do have a run there. Is that because of your run in Wildside with Bill Behrens? Is that just a connection there with TNA?
yeah, it was through Bill. Jerry had Jerry had been down and visited the building, um, and he was looking at talent at the time, and so he had come down. And I want to say that he saw me there, and then there was a spot became available. They were trying to book talent for whatever the little show that they had was. I don't know. Was it?
Explosion?
That's it. There you go. And so Bill reached out to me. He reached out to me. I think it was that Monday, and said, do you want to go up and try out for TNA? And I was like, yeah, you know. And so yeah, man. Bill got me linked up with that. And I was real fortunate. I got to work with David Young, who was a guy that I was familiar with from Wildside. And he and I had, I mean, probably wasn't even a 5-minute match. We went out there though, and we had pretty good chemistry. And I think that that I showed him that I could move around pretty good. And I wasn't just the average big guy that just lumbered around. And I actually could do stuff. And so yeah, man, I went up and I had the match with Dave. And when I came through the back, Dusty was standing back there. He was like not working gorilla, but the agents kind of hung
Yep.
right back. And I came through, and Dusty said, baby, like you didn't have to do all of that stuff. They probably was gonna hire you anyway. But, but pretty funny. And Dusty and I, that's another one that like I told you, I watched him as a kid, and was very fortunate to get to work for and work against.
TCW, right? For his Turnbuckle League?
Yep, for TCW.
Another one
I
of your heroes, yeah.
Yeah, man, and the same guy that I called up the day that I decided that I want to get into the business. He was actually working for Dusty at the time. And so I had gone with him to to a show down in Jekyll Island that they were having. And that was the first, that was the first time that I'd met Dusty. And then, fast forward, obviously TCW was running, it's going good. He still had, a lot of the ECW talent, was still working for him. I know Tommy was, New Jack was, Carino. I forget the list of guys that were working for him, but he reached out to me and he said, look, Dusty wants you to, to come and work Saturday if you don't already have a booking. And I said, yeah, absolutely. Like, who's going to say no to Dusty, And so I went over, and I don't remember who I was initially supposed to work against, but it turned out being it was me and Sonny Siaki. And I don't know if you remember Sonny from.
Oh, of course. Yep.
Yeah. Wound up being me and Sonny. It's a clash of styles right there. We were a team, and we wrestled against Dusty and New Jack.
Awesome.
And you can imagine who took the ass whooping in that match.
Right.
And so, yeah, I bled enough for both of us. But yeah, man, I got to work with Dusty, and, he gave me probably, it's one of the biggest compliments that I ever got in the business, and it broke my heart at the same time. So I had my huge high and my huge low all at the same time. We got done with the match and we got to the back, and he said, kid, he said, if I'd have had you 25 years ago, we'd have made a shit ton of money. And I was like, man, that's damn.
Yeah.
25 years ago. You know what? I'll take it though. I'll take this small payday, and getting a chance to work with him, was just, again, a dream come true, and another, why is this happening for me, Excuse me.
So when he sees you in TNA and makes that comment about how you're probably going to get signed, do you get signed? Because you only worked there a few times. I think you worked Norman Smiley and Sandman stuff. So, and I think you're with Don Callis. Like, it was kind of a storyline that he brought you in. So were you supposed to be signed? Did you get signed? What happened there?
It was I was signed to a short-term deal, which would have led to a longer run. But the night that I worked Norman Smiley, that I forget who it was that came to me at the time. He's still running it down there now. He's still running Impact now.
Scott D'Amore?
Scott, yeah. He had come to me and told me no, he didn't even come to me on this one. Norman came to me and said, he said they want you to they want you to work me over pretty good, and basically go out and squash him. And all this is on me, and I've held I've held ill will in the past over, but look back on it, it's all my fault. I just looked at Norman and I said, I can't do that. And he said, he was like, but that's what they want. And I said, Norman, I've got too much respect for you, to go and just, job you out, because like he was getting nothing. And I couldn't do it, John.
Wow.
Bad business decision on my part.
Yeah.
But, would I do it again? Would I change anything? Probably not. Because it just was a respect thing for me, and I mean, if you go back and you watch the match, it's not like I gave him, a shit ton of stuff to do. He did the wiggle. He did that.
Yep.
And that pretty much was it, man. but it was enough that it rubbed people in the office the wrong way, and uh, so the match that I wound up having with Sandman, which was going to be down the line a little bit, it got pushed to the front, and so yeah, that's how all that happened.
Wow, it's almost like you being nice and being giving ends up screwing you in the end, I guess. So you
Yeah, I
didn't
mean it
give them
did.
what they wanted.
Yeah, it came back and it bit me in the ass, and again, I wouldn't change it, because like at this point I had already worked with Butcher and Pogo, and they did what they did for me, and it's like shit, man. Like I keep, it would have been one thing of like if we were at a spot show, at a house show, and they wanted me to do that, but like it was my first match there, and I get it. I get it. They, wanted me to come in and be strong
Yep.
and whatnot. But and I felt naively enough that that I hadn't done that much damage. That I had.
Up, you're muted for a sec. We're saying about them kind of exiting you, and I guess Callis kind of just fires you on
Can you hear me
TV.
now?
Yes. So Callis basically just fires you on TV.
Okay. Yeah, that's how it happened. Um, but again, like I was fortunate to get the opportunity to do it, and you know, I don't hold any ill will to anyone. That was a decision that I made, and one that that ultimately I had to live with, and so
And it's interesting too
yeah,
because
I wouldn't
also
I wouldn't change.
no regrets, so no, you wouldn't change it. Gotcha. You
Yeah,
also end up in Ring of Honor as well for a little bit, and I guess Abby may have got you there as well. I know you're part of the Bunkhouse match, which was like a huge match with Abby and Dustin. I mean, there was so much going on with that match at the Epic Encounter. You were at Do or Die, but did Abby again get you in to Ring of Honor?
no, that was actually Rob and Gabe, um, that wanted me, to come up for that because, again, going back to, David Young, he and I had, we were, had been, working each other quite a bit, and, had a pretty hot angle down here. And, the fact that our TV aired up in Philly, people knew the story with it, and there was a bunch of us. There were a bunch of guys. Well, AJ was going, and there were a couple other guys from Wildside that were going up, and so yeah, it wound up being, I think 5 or 6 of us that went up, and got a chance to do that, which was awesome. Crowd was so hot, man, and I was nervous. I think I was a little more nervous going into that particular match, than even the pay-per-view stuff at TNA. Um, because I was smartened up, and I knew how hard it was to to please that crowd, up there, and they had gotten so accustomed to, you know, really good damn wrestling matches, um, that you don't go and you don't go and shit the bed up there. You have to go and you have to carry your A game. So yeah, man, I was nervous for that one.
Actually, Abby's not in it. Abby was there earlier for the Night of the Butcher for a different show. Then Dusty is in that bunkhouse match. Of course, bunkhouse match with Dusty, but pretty cool you're on there with Homicide and a couple of the ROH regulars. Were you going to be a bigger part of ROH, or that was never in the cards?
I don't, I don't know that they had. I don't know that they had bigger plans for me. Um, you know, I would have loved to, become a regular there. But I think that, you know, I would have wanted it to have been kind of like how, how Abby was booked stateside, how he would be, somewhere for, 4 to 6 months and then leave, and
Yep.
then come back because, with the gimmick, I think that it would have gotten stale. Um, and I think the reactions, could have been there, if we had, been able to work it that way. Um, but I really, like I said, man, I'm really appreciative of my time there. Uh, and like you said, man, Dusty was he was my tag partner in that one. Him and Homicide, who
Yep.
I've got the utmost respect for, for him. Um, so that was really a treat, man, to go in and, again, that was my first show there, and we main evented that night, and just like the first show in Japan, that I main evented that. First show in Puerto Rico, I main evented that. So, um, to go in and be able to main event with the guys that I was able to work with uh, was pretty special. Something that I don't take for granted, and are definitely highlights of my career.
When you look at obviously Wildside, that was kind of a launching pad and a launching point for a lot of guys. Like you said, even some of the TVs out there, the tapes are out there. Obviously, AJ Styles made a big career. Jimmy Rave, who actually unfortunately recently passed, he made a big kind of big deal, big come up from there. David Young, Onyx, who I thought was going to be maybe a bigger star, he kind of was on the big stage for a little bit. Obviously,
Yeah.
you were on the big stage for a little bit, but Wildside was a nice spot. Buddy of mine, Phil Schneider, who wrote the great book, The Way of the Blade, loved
Ah,
Wildside. He always talks about NWA Anarchy and Wildside, and he loves those bloody war games matches and stuff that you guys had. So they're pretty significant as far as just maybe more underground, but definitely people know NWA Wildside.
yeah. That was the like the crazy thing to me is because, like, you know I knew that our TV, it reached out, and we didn't have, like the biggest, we didn't have like the biggest, stations or whatever that carried us, but I mean the amount of people, that watch those shows, man, is ridiculous, you know, and it was pretty awesome, man, to already have a presence there and never to have stepped foot, uh, up in Philly. Because I mean that's a great wrestling town, man, and Jersey is too. Which, I regret I never got a chance to work in Jersey, um, but just great wrestling town, man, and to have a presence there, before I ever went was pretty amazing. Um, you know, like I knew that AJ would, he was the star, and that I knew that his presence there would be pretty big. But just to look back on it, and the fact that you know people knew who we were, is pretty, um, it's pretty awesome, man. Pretty awesome.
As we hit the wind down, we'll head towards the finish here. Is there any sort of regrets? I know with the TNA there was no regrets, but any sort of regrets or anything you didn't get to do? Like, did you want to sign a big deal? Do you think you ever could have been in WWE or like a bigger promotion, or maybe your style you think wouldn't really fit? But what do you think about that? Any regrets or anything you wish you could have done in the business?
Man, to be honest with you, John, like I never really, especially when I first started, like I never had big expectations on, where I would go because, I just, I knew that WWE, at the time, they were just looking at body guys,
Yep.
um, and people that they could mold into, their style, which is, if you've got that physique and those guys work hard for it. I obviously didn't have it, don't have it,
Hmm.
but never, never thought that I'd ever get a chance to, to work, on that stage. And, like we did an extra spot, there with, the Big Show and the McMahons. We did their security detail in a spot with them and DX with Sean and Hunter. And, which is another like crazy moment for me because, I'm never supposed to work there, period, and it wasn't like I was in the ring wrestling, but um, never supposed to have worked there. And then to, be on Monday Night Raw, and, in a spot with, like I said, the McMahon, Shane, Vince, and the Big Show, and then Hunter and Sean, man. Um, never in my wildest dreams did I ever think anything like that, would ever happen. And then, like I said, to be on there and then, take a chair shot from Sean, was pretty unreal, man. It's still pretty surreal to me now to even think about it.
Who set up that spot where you're taking the chair shot? Do they know of your history? They like, oh, this guy can take a good shot. Like, who set that up?
So I'll tell you, like we um we had gone out to ringside to do a walkthrough, and we were, let's see, three to a side. Yeah, there was three to a side, so there was 12 of us. And so like where I was initially placed, I was dead center, of the ring, facing up the ramp. And so for whatever reason, Michael Hayes, he was the agent on it. He decided to move us around. So I got moved to hard cam side. So I mean, I had a good spot either way. Either way it would have went. Um, so he moved us, and then the deal was, again, Sean's gonna hit whoever with the chair, and Michael says, he just goes, "All right, who wants to take this chair shot from Sean?" And I raised my hand, and it was like me and Tank were, and I don't know if you're familiar with my old partner Tank,
Oh yeah, of course. Yep.
but yeah, he's amazing, man. Um, he's freaking amazing. Um, but he and I were the only ones really that did that style. Um, and so, like, I raised my hand and he raised his. And so Michael moved me back over into the spot that I'd started in. And so, like, Sean's talking to me and he's like, "Now, look, don't be afraid to throw your hands up." And I just looked at him and I said, "There's no way in hell." And he said, "Look, nobody's going to think badly of you if you do." And he said, "Personally, if it was me, I would throw my hands up." And I said, "I appreciate it. No way in hell." And so it was chair shot, sledgehammer, chair shot, sledgehammer. So you see the rotation. Well, Tank was, he got one of the chair shots. And so Sean looked at him and said the same thing. And he goes, Well, I can't throw my hands up because that son bitch over there said he ain't throwing his up. So,
Yep.
which is pretty
Yep.
funny. He gives me shit to this day because of it, but not mean spirited, but just ribbing me. Um, but yeah, I don't know that they were familiar with the type of work that I did. Um, but it was really cool. It made it. Again, it was on Monday Night Raw in front of like a live house of like over 16,000 people, and then however many people were watching it, at home, and then it was used on the spots on there, and then the spot going into the pay per view that they were having. Um, it's used again in like the highlight package, going into the match. So it's pretty cool that I made it on a WWE a commercial, DVD. Um, so,
Pretty cool
but I
moment.
mean,
Yeah.
I never really thought, because ECW went out of business, not long after I got started. And if there was one of the companies that I think that probably I could have gotten to,
Yep.
that was it.
Definitely would have fit. Yep.
Yeah. So,
When you look back at legacy, what do you think like of Iceberg? I mean, obviously your whole career, but Puerto Rico, a little bit of Japan, a little bit of Turnbuckle with Dusty, a little ROH, little TNA, dominated NWA Wildside. What would you say legacy wise that you would be?
man, I hope that my run at Wildside was special, very special. Um, and the work that I got to do, all the guys I got to work with, but the work I got to do alongside Jeff G. Bailey probably my favorite time in the business. That, and then when we with my other manager Dan Wilson, we did that run at Anarchy. Those are my two favorite times in the business. Um, so I probably that right there. I just want to be remembered as somebody that I didn't disappoint. Um, I exceeded all of my expectations. I can absolutely say that. Um, I just would like just be remembered as somebody that I hope I never let anybody down. I hope when people went home that night, I gave them their money's worth. You know, so, and that's it. I just um, the respect of my peers. You know that's the most important thing to me, and I think that I earned that. Um, and for the fans, I think that I earned their respect, and I'm grateful, man, very grateful.
Now, as far as following you and social media, where can everybody follow Iceberg if they want to follow you around?
So I'm on. I'm on Facebook under Edward Chastain. Um, uh, Twitter is NWA all capitals Iceberg, and the I in Iceberg is capital. Instagram is iceberg underscore est underscore 1998. Yeah, man, that's pretty much it. I think I'm on Threads too, but yeah, that hadn't quite picked up. So not on there as much, but IG, man, that's where I'm at. Now I float around on them, but right now IG, that's kind of my landing spot. And I do some stuff on Twitter as well. Um, but yeah, man, that's if anybody wants to locate me, that's where I'm at.
All right, Iceberg, thank you so much for all time. Really appreciate it. Great talking to you.
John, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.